Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm fine, sir.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board.
Hello, Dr. Kazeem.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
How are you?
I'm good, sir.
You
Yeah,
are the one. You are the one in the morning for us. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry for I forgot, sir. Good
No, I
afternoon, sir.
understand. Of course,
I'm sorry, sir.
you have to greet based on your situation. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So how are
Family, because
you?
I'm good, sir.
Yeah,
I'm good,
we
sir.
are fine. Thank
I'm
you.
good, sir. And thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity, sir.
Well, rather, I think we should appreciate you for always being there, always willing to share your knowledge, your experience, your expertise with us. We really appreciate.
Thank you so much, sir.
So as usual, Dr. Sherifat, we coordinate the webinar.
Okay,
So I will just also be your student today, and at the end, in case I have questions, I will also ask.
sir.
So thank you very, 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 very much.
Thank you too, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
can
can
you hear
hear you,
me?
Dr. Sharifa. Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you very
good.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good day. Yeah.
So we're going to start. We're going to start now. Let's just wait for people to join. We'll
Yeah,
start exactly 3 o'clock. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Elijah, I can hear you.
All right.
I hear
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. All right. Thank you. Good day, everyone. This is another episode of 1 Hour with the Statistician. And today we are having another speaker, which is one of us, is someone that we all know, and a person of Dr. Kazeem Adepoju, who is currently a lecturer at the School of Statistics, University of Minnesota, USA. He's also an assistant professor of mathematics at the North Central University, Minneapolis, USA. He's also an instructor at Mortensen Plymouth, USA. He was formerly a lecturer at the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He completed his professional diploma in statistics with distinction, Bachelor of Science in Statistics with first class, Master of Science, as well as PhD in Statistics, all this from University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Dr. Kazeem did a postdoc under the watchful eyes of Professor Galen Jones, the Director of School of Statistics, University of Minnesota, USA. His research interests include mathematics statistics, robust statistical models, statistics education, random effects, estimation in repeated measure setting, modeling longitudinal data, and machine learning algorithms. He has presented in a good number of international conferences around the world and has published more than 30 research articles in a scholarly journal. He is a member of Nigerian Statistical Association Nigeria. He is also a member of American Mathematics Society, Mathematical Association of America, Benoni Society for Mathematics Statistics, and Probability and American Statistical Association. Dr. Adepoju is a recipient of the various research grants, which include the 2003 ICOSDA Conference at Central Michigan University in 2013, Association of Commonwealth University in London to present its PhD work at the University of Oxford, United Kingdom in 2015, Joint Mathematical Meeting, Atlanta, Georgia, USA in 2017, Stochastic Process and Application at Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island in USA in 2018, Design analysis of experiments at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, USA in 2019. Dr. Adepoju is a recipient of Outstanding Teaching Award sponsored by Center for Educational Innovation, University of Minnesota, USA, for 5 semesters in a row from 2019 to 2021. He is an incoming Assistant Director of Undergraduate Study, School of Statistics, University of Minnesota, United States of America. Dr. Adepoju is from Alafara Olubadan Compound, Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. but was raised in Ondo State, southwestern Nigeria. He is happily married to Nurat Adepoju and blessed with 5 lovely daughters. Permit me to welcome Dr. Adepoju Kazeem on today's topic, probabilistic graphical model drive algorithm fairness, example from criminal justice system in the United States of America. You have just 45 minutes to present this talk so that we can have enough time to ask our question. Dr. Adepoju, you can have your talk. Thank you.
Okay. Good day, everyone. And I want to welcome everyone to my talk today. Of course, today I'm actually going to be giving a talk on probabilistic graphical model-driven algorithm for algorithm fairness, example from the criminal justice in the United States. But before I get started today, I actually want to appreciate the God Almighty, the source of all knowledge, for gifts of life, love, mercy and unmerited favor that my family and I receive. And I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate my parents, my mom. I pray that Almighty God, continue to protect my mom. And I also want to use this opportunity to remember my dad, late Adepoju Decile, may so rest in perfect peace. I want to appreciate the head of Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, Nigeria, Professor Oaishiru. Professor Oaishiru actually supervised my PhD work while the Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He was my lecturer, my mentor, and my father. I also want to appreciate an associate, Professor Shuku. Associate Angela Shuku actually co-supervised my PhD work. He was actually my lecturer, my mentor, and a very special sister. I want to appreciate the LISA coordinator, Professor Lubusui. Professor Lubusui, actually my lecturer, my advisor, and a father. I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate every other senior academic staff of the Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, that actually planted and nurture my statistical seed. But especially I want to appreciate Professor Bamiduro, Professor Amaya, Professor Yani Wura, Dr. Ojo, Dr. Mrs. Adepoju, Dr. Shawale, Dr. Alaba, and the rest of the academic staff of the Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. I also want to use this opportunity to remember the fallen heroes, the fallen academic heroes. I want to use this opportunity to remember Dr. Adelakun, okay, and the rest of others, okay, may their soul rest in perfect peace. I also want to use this opportunity to appreciate the current academic staff of the Department of Statistics, University of Ibadan, the non-academic staff, the LISA team, the students, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say I feel honored and humbled to be invited to give this talk. And this is going to be my second talk under this platform in this year, and the third ever. And you know what? I'm actually going to continue to collaborate with this organization and every other organization whose priority is actually on, sending statistical or data science news around the world. Okay, let's get started. Today, like I said, I actually want to work on probabilistic graphical model-driven algorithmic fairness. Example is actually going to come from the criminal justice in the United States. And you know what? I'm actually going to be guided by this outline. I'm going to have, trying to reveal the conclusion I made from my last talk in March. Okay, from there, I'm going to have a brief overview of algorithmic fairness. Then I'm going to introduce us to probabilistic graphical models. But let me tell us, the probabilistic graphical models is actually a graduate course. Okay, it's a graduate course in computer science, in statistics, in machine learning, and in electrical engineering. Okay, then from there, I'm going to talk about the statistical line theory, the basis of for machine learning. Then I'm going to talk about application. Then I'm going to conclude. And of course, I can assure you, I'm actually going to talk within my time. Okay, let's start from the conclusion from last talk. You know, for those of you who did not attend my talk in March, of course, I actually had a conclusion from that talk in March. The conclusion I had was that, okay, you know what, the machine learning and the statistical methodology, they're actually going to learn because they borrow from each other. They're actually going to come together in the future. Okay, and you know what? It is, you know, that's my conclusion in March has started manifesting. Okay, okay. In case you don't know how we actually got here, you know, we find ourselves in a world that is stochastic in nature. We live in a probability world. Okay, and you know what? The appearance of physical structure in the world, the appearance of reality, is independent of human knowledge. And you know what? Things are kind of changing rapidly. There's a variation in this world. And you know what? How do we take decision in this kind of environment? And that is a decision that we don't want to regret. Okay, so it means that for me to understand my political environment, if I want to understand my, you know, economic environment, my medical environment, my sociological environment, then I got no choice. Then I need to collect data set. But you know what? If I collect data set, the information that I'm actually looking for is not available. I mean, it's not readily available. I think it's actually looking for a situation like this. Okay, I'm actually taking this orange right now as my data set. Okay, and you know what? I actually need information. What we need is actually going to be the contents of the orange, right? Okay, and what statisticians are actually going to do, they're actually going to specify model to learn from data. Okay, and the machine, you know, the data scientists on the other hand, what they're going to do, they're going to use algorithm to learn the model from the data. That's what they're going to do. But whether we're using machine learning approach or we're using statistical approach, at the end of the day, you know, using statistical approach, you know, we're going to have our data extracted. The data is actually the drink, the content. You know why? The content here. And you know what? Something else is going to go into a trash. Okay. And you know what we want to do is actually to, you know, minimize what is going to eventually go into a trash. Okay. And you know what? In statistical analysis, we normally refer to that as the whole of that as the total variation. Okay, we talk about the total variation around response, right? And you know what? We have explained variation. So the information that we got that we're able to extract. Okay. And of course, the other one is going to go into a trash, right? I want to minimize the one that go into a trash. And no matter how we try, whether we're using statistical model or we're using algorithmic modeling, there's always going to be something that will go into a trash. In machine learning, they have what we call a loss function, and they're trying to see how they can minimize that. In statistical analysis, when specified a model, there's going to be what they call a random part, the stochastic part. The inclusion of the stochastic part actually represent the probabilistic expression of reality. Okay. Now, there was one issue with statistical method. There's another issue with a data science method, with machine learning method. the issue with the statistical method is that statistical method actually struggle with big data. Statistical model actually have a problem of predictive accuracy. But the machine learning on the advantage the statistical method has is interpretability. But the machine learning, on the other hand, has issue with interpretability because we have a lot of variables. Of course, that's the title of my course in March. Okay. Now today, why am I really considering the topic that I'm actually talking about? You know why? The algorithm that they use in machine learning also have issue. You know, I want to tell you this. Do you know I appreciate, I see the presence of God more when I read statistics than listening to an average religious person? And I'm going to tell you why as time goes on. Okay, the statement of the problem. That was a statement credited to the former president of the United States in 2015. And when he said, our criminal justice system isn't as smart, okay, as it should be. He said it's not keeping us safe as it should be. It is not even as fair as it should be, okay? And he said the mass incarceration makes that so worse. And I'm going to tell you why Obama said this in 2015, because you know why? United States of America actually have the largest prison population in the whole world. The 20% of the prison population in the world is in the United States. And you know what? The 1% of American populations are behind the bar. Okay? And you know, how can we actually, maximize our justice system at a less financial cost? United States of America spend about 300 billion US dollars every year to actually imprison and to policing. Okay? And you know what? They're actually looking for a way, to reduce that cost and not at the expense of security risk. So how do they want to stand in the middle to make sure that those who are, they are high security risks are actually put behind the bar? And, how are they going to do it in a way that they're going to reduce the cost? Okay. Now, that was a statement. Now, let me tell you this. Algorithm has issue with bias. And this was first noticed in 2011 in some papers on how algorithm actually discriminates against a certain group. I wish I'm going to give you an example right now. In the United Kingdom, there's actually an algorithm for face recognition, and that very algorithm actually struggle with black skin. And of course, it has also been alleged that the healthcare system, the algorithm used for the healthcare system in the United Kingdom actually, discriminate against the black. United States of America is not left out. Okay. There's a particular algorithm used in the US, in the court, that simulates a Decile score. The Decile score is actually from 1 to 10, okay? And 1 to 4 is medium, okay? Medium risk, we call that medium risk, okay? And 5 to 7, oh, sorry, not medium risk, that was a mistake. So the 1 to 4 is like low risk. So 1 to 4 is low risk, okay? And 5 to 7 is medium risk, okay? And 8 to 10 is high risk. Now, what do I mean by that? In the court of law in the United States, if a suspect is convicted, okay, and they normally put into consideration certain factors that determines the sentencing, the numbers of years, apart from the constitution or provision of that particular territorial jurisdiction. Now, there's an algorithm, which I call machine automated system used to simulate the Decile score. And you know what? The Black people used to receive a high Decile score. Now, the essence of giving a Decile score is just, okay, you know what is the probability that, a convicted criminal will reoffend upon release? I'm going to say that again. The probability that a convicted, okay, a person is actually going to reoffend, okay, upon release. Because in the United States has the highest number of recidivism rate in the whole world, 70%. What I mean by recidivism, the recidivism actually means what is the probability that a convicted criminal upon release is actually going to commit another offense. United States has 70% in the world. And a country like Norway has one of the lowest. I mean, in Europe, has one of the lowest, 20% in Norway. There's a country called Norway. Okay, so it has been alleged that this algorithm that actually simulate Decile scores normally give high scores to African Americans, and they give lower scores to, to the whites. Okay, that even have the same degree of offense. Okay, and you know what? Papers on algorithmic fairness has been increasing from 2011. Look at where it is in 2017, and that is keep on increasing. So we want a fairness, okay? But you know what? I want to tell you there was one organization in the United States called ProPublica. Now the ProPublica study the rate at which a compass score, okay, actually assign numbers to offenders, and they realize that the algorithm used actually discriminate against the Black people. Okay, because of what? They realize that there is a higher false positive rate for Black people compared to the white counterpart. Okay, so that was what they alleged. But you know what? The North Point that handled that algorithm for United States actually replied, and they defended their algorithm. They said their algorithm was actually fair, and they use model validation criteria in machine learning to argue their case. I'm actually going to walk you through that here. Okay. Now, the reason why algorithms are being used, why automated systems is being used to take decisions nowadays, is because particularly for recidivism, they are very right 89% of the time, compared to using woman's notion, which is right like 60% of the time. Okay, so now when we talk about algorithm fairness, we want a situation where the algorithm is actually going to do justice to all groups. Okay, and you know what? The statistician, the data scientists, okay, they have a way to evaluate a process and see whether there's a bias. Okay, and you know what? They've researched on, okay, what causes the bias in the data and algorithm. Okay, then how can we define and apply measurement of fairness? Okay, then how do we develop our data collection and modeling methodologies that actually that can guarantee what I call a fair algorithm. Okay, then how we can actually advise, give advice to government or corporate body on how to regulate algorithms. Now, why is algorithm fairness important? It is important because of the costs associated with the misclassification. I want to tell you this: if an individual is not going to reoffend and it was given a very high Decile score, then it means that person, the length of sentence is actually going to be huge. And I've seen a lot upon my arrival into the United States. United States actually use an algorithm that actually predicts where police are actually going to patrol. And most of the time, that algorithm actually predicts a black neighborhood. I want to say predicting a black neighborhood, that doesn't mean, it's not as if they are actually not fair, but because what actually, affect the black is because the, um, the rate at which black commit crime in the United States is very huge. And most of the models are majority driven models. I'm going to say that again. Statistical model, the machine learning model actually relies on probability theory. If I have 7 cookies in a bag and I have 3 candies, what is the probability of getting cookies? Of course, because of the fact that the numbers of cookies is more than the numbers of candies, the probability of getting cookies is going to be very high. So therefore, what I'm trying to say right now, okay, the bias in algorithm there's no bias in the algorithm, but the bias in the data set actually induce bias in algorithm. Okay, and of course, incorrect prediction are systematic, like the entire group could suffer. Just like right now, the African Americans suffer a lot. And why they suffer a lot is because of the past antecedents. Because the rate at which they commit crime is very high compared to their white counterpart. And there's no way, whether you're using algorithm or not, it's actually going to give them high probability of committing crime. Our models are majority driven. Okay, I think I've explained why algorithm become unfair. Algorithm is not bias, on their own. It is a bias in the data set that actually, amplify the bias in algorithm. Okay, I think we are trying to get information from data set using model or algorithm. We got to make sure that 2 of them are in the same state. If there's a bias in the model and there's a bias in the data structure, if they have the same rate of bias, okay, like if they have exactly the same rate, the rate of biasedness in data set and the rate of biasedness in model are the same, there's no problem at all. Okay, even though what we want in reality, we want an unbiased estimator, right? Can we get that? Can we get unbiased estimator? We may not get that. We are likely to get a biased estimator. But you know what? What induces that is actually going to be the bias in the data, going to be rate of prevalence. Okay, historical data. Okay, so algorithm has been used in the criminal justice system in the United States, and they have been complained that this actually discriminates, okay, against the black. And I told you, Americans have predictive policing algorithm that we call pre-poll and OSHLAB, and that will inform, police deployment. Police in the United States don't just patrol a place, okay, without, looking at this algorithm. And that is the reason why there's a lot of crime, okay, in the city of Chicago. You know why? There's a lot of black in Chicago, okay? And then situation where where you have a lot of police department in a particular neighborhood, then that means a good numbers of black will actually be arrested, and based on historical data, of course, it's going to skew that to black. Don't forget I said most of our models are majority driven model. Okay, the algorithm in the criminal system have been used virtually states in the United States. Okay, so just trying to tell them now. Before I go ahead, I want to confirm if everyone is still hearing me clearly. You guys still hear me clearly?
Yes, you can continue.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for confirming that. Now, what I'm trying to show you right now on my screen is actually the formula used, okay, to compute the Decile score, by, in the United States courts. Okay, this is the formula. Okay, they're actually using the age at first arrest, or the history of violence, the vocation education level, and the history of non-compliance. Okay, the X actually here is what we call the violent recidivism. When I say violent, okay, according to the FBI, violent crime means you have a murder, rape, aggravated assault, and the like. Those are classified under the violent. Okay, now when you take a look at what I have right now, this is what they use. You can see if you look at the component, there's no race, right? There's no race. Okay, it means a race is actually being protected, because according to article the civil article of 1964 that actually protects certain characteristics of interest. Okay, so this is one of the justification. Give me 1 second. I think I want to mute I want to mute everyone. Give me 1 second. Okay, I think I just did that right now. Okay, so this is what they use. Okay, now the ProPublica that have a complaint. This is the reason why they complain. The ProPublica actually conducted research and realized that the African American, if you look at the first positive, like here, label high risk, but they did not reoffend. They were labeled high risk, they are given high risk, but at the end of the day, upon release, they did not reoffend. Okay, and look at that, 44.9%, and the white has 23.5%. This is unfair. Okay, it means the black people are highly misclassified. And when you take a look at those who are labeled low risk, and yet they did reoffend, a good numbers of whites. Look at that. This is not fair. So this is what the journal, the ProPublica actually use, okay, in alleging that algorithm has not been fair at all. Okay, now this is the situation. You know why? And I decided to look at the data set used. I look at the prevalence. I look at the numbers of African American in the data set. I look at the white I call Caucasian. You can see, take a look at what you're seeing right now. What can you see? Okay, there's a good number of African American, right, that commit crime. Can you take a look at that? This is the prevalence. And this is what we call unbalance. When you are doing classification, okay, whether medical diagnosis or whatever, if your data look like this, I'm afraid, okay, you are not going to have it. You are not, you're going to mislead, because this is not balanced. Okay, the prevalence. So this is what I have right here is actually going to induce bias into model. Okay, we got to use. I'm going to make sure they are balanced before we can actually have a meaningful result. Okay, anyway, that's one of the ways to correct that. Okay, I actually look at the correlation between the Decile score and the 2-year RSI. 2-year RSI means, okay, you know what, upon when the criminal is now eventually released within 2 years, does he commit crime? We actually want to see whether there's a relationship between the Decile score given by Compass, okay, and whether they reoffend. And of course, we have the correlation is actually 0.34, which actually indicate there's a kind of a positive relationship, okay, which means the Decile is working, right? The algorithm is working, right? Okay. Now, when I look at the Decile score distribution by race, this will actually give you the picture that the African American, okay, they normally give them high score, high Decile score. You know the meaning of high Decile score? The high Decile score indicate that they're actually going to reoffend upon release. That is the meaning. And you're going to see that the Caucasian, the whites, they normally give them the low scores. Okay, the low Decile score. Okay, what I did? Um, I actually put into consideration some variables, and we have some classifiers in machine learning that we can actually be used to classify into whether somebody, a criminal, convicted criminal, is actually going to reoffend or not based on the data set. Okay, we have a data set. Okay, in this data set, we have information about some variables, the conviction counts, the age, and so on like that. And we also have information on whether or not the criminal, the convicted criminal, is actually going to reoffend. Okay, we consider the classifiers in machine learning like logistic regression, the support vector classifier, decision tree, random forest, Gaussian naive Bayes, and at the end of the day, we look at the metrics like accuracy, precision, recall, and F1 score. Some of you may be wondering, what is the difference between all these ones? We got a way to validate in machine learning. We split our data set into training and test. A good numbers of data set we go for training, like 70%, and the 30% we go for tests. And at the end of the day, we have a way to validate whether to talk on the model performance in terms of classification. Now, the accuracy here is used. Now, accuracy actually used situation where we have a balance, okay? Where we have a balance, like we have a balanced data. But what I showed you the other time was not a balance, right? Okay, and of course the precision is actually, okay, out of the predicted true positive, okay, how many are actual positive, then we have a recall that we also call sensitivity, okay, the ability of a model to actually detect, okay, so if an offender to reside upon release, then the precision score is actually is a very good measure when the cost of false positive is high. Okay, and recall is a very good measure when the cost of a false negative is high. And you know what, the F1 score is just to balance between the precision and recall, which is actually the harmonic mean of the precision and recall. Okay, now when you take a look at what I have here, okay, among all the models, of course, the best one was actually logistic regression. Okay, the best one was actually logistic regression and the naive Bayes. Okay, what is the issue? And I'm going to tell you the issue right now. Um, the ProPublica, the ProPublica actually believe, why is it that ProPublica is, allege this algorithm that is not fair is because of this guy here. If you take a look at that guy, that is a probability of high risk given no receipt. Okay, that is, by nature knows the truth, that person was not going to reoffend, but he was given a high score that did not favor African American. Look at that. That's even higher than the white. Look at that. This is what the ProPublica allege. The ProPublica is trying, this is what we call the false positive rate. It said the false positive rate of different groups are not the same. Look at the false positive rate. The African American is higher than the Caucasian. This is the overall false positive rate. This is very similar to what we did in analysis of variance, when we say, okay, you know what, there should be constant variance across group, that we're trying to compare. So right here, we are trying to say the false positive rate should actually be equal. It should be approximately equal. Though we know it can be equal under this heaven, it is only in heaven that we can get a perfect judgment, a perfect classification. But what the ProPublica actually argue is that the misclassification rate that we call the false positive rate should be equal. But right now, that of the African American is actually high. I'm using logistic regression right here. Why? Because, the other time, logistic regression was actually, the best based on the class, what we did. Okay. Now, but you know what? Do you know what um, the the company that handle that algorithm for United States, you know what they used to argue? They use this guy to argue. I wanted to look at the difference between these two. Look at this one. This is a predicted given outcome. And this is outcome given predicted. They are not the same. Of course, we know in Bayesian analysis, when you talk about posterior, we talk about conditional, okay? When you talk about likelihood, we also talk about conditional probability. Now, this is what they use to argue how their case, okay? That, you know what, the probability, if somebody actually is not going to resign, given that he has been given a low risk, and that this probability is actually approximately the same across the group. Okay, this is one of, this is one of the things they use, okay, in defending that. Okay, I will quickly run through an example of those, between the whites and the black offender. That if you take a look at this guy, he was given a low risk 3. It was labeled as a low risk because he was given a Decile score of 3. Okay, this is his offense. And look at this African American girl. He was given 8 as a high risk. But you know what? Upon release, this guy even went ahead to commit a grand theft. Upon release, this lady here did not really commit any offense anymore. Take a look at that. That's an error. Okay, we have a good number of them. Okay, now how can we overcome algorithm fairness? Okay, there must be an effort in place. Okay, and the effort in place, in law, like the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title 7, and Equal Employment Opportunity, that protects all groups. Okay, that's already in place. But from statistical point of view, from the machine learning point of view, how can we actually, okay, make our algorithm to be fair? Number one, we need to have a definition for algorithm. That is, we need to have definition for fairness. And the definition for fairness is actually going to be, okay, you know what? The misclassification error have to be the same in our group. Then our data set, I talked about unbalanced data set the other time. Okay, we actually need to reposition our data set. We need to work on the data architecture. Okay, now, and the last thing, which is my intervention today, Bayesian approach. Okay, the Bayesian approach is actually the probabilistic graphic models that I actually want to use. Okay, now this is what I want to work on. Okay, now let's go there. Okay, I want to introduce us now to probabilistic graphical model, because intervention here to actually remove bias in algorithm. Okay, they recommended that we should go by Bayesian network, and Bayesian network is a member of probabilistic graphical models. Now let me tell you this: we have a we have a graphical model, we have a probabilistic graphical model. The graph models are used in mathematics and computer science. Okay, they actually use that to add structure to motivate objective function. Okay, motivate objective function that actually, whether they want to minimize or maximize. Okay, but you know what, we find ourselves in a world where we don't just talk about data integration now to solve the problem in the world. We're now talking about method integration. Okay, the knowledge of computer, the knowledge of statistics, the knowledge in electrical engineering, put together, we now have what we call a probabilistic graphical models. So what do I mean by probabilistic graphical models? You're going to see that every other models actually assume independence. You know, they assume that relationship between independent variables, okay, you know, that they assume that there's no any relationship between them, they are purely independent. We know in statistical analysis, when independent variables are not independent, we can actually, you know, we have a way to, you know, to solve that. Some of you may say, okay, what about principal component analysis? Of course, we have principal component analysis, we have the factor analysis, and we also have the variance of principal component analysis. But you know what? The principal component analysis have limitation. You know, the principal component analysis ensure that variables that are correlated to be uncorrelated. You know, the number one step in principal component analysis is actually the limitation of principal components. The number one step is standardization. Oh my God, standardization. You standardize all your variables to make sure no one dominates. When you standardize, you are no longer preserving originality in the data set. Okay, but how can we actually measure the you know the conditional dependence of variables? We don't care if they exist. How can we have a way, you know, how can we have a graphical way, you know, to actually capture the probabilistic representation of multivariate variables that have relationship, whether they have a conditional dependence relationship or not? How can we really capture that? Then we're going to make use of a probabilistic graphical models. Okay, now I'm going to walk you through, you know, that right now. We got two types of graphical model. We got the directed graphical model, or we call it Bayesian network. Okay, this is what I'm actually going to be using. We also have an undirected model. So, you know, we're using the knowledge of Bayes right here, prior information. Okay, with all, you know, with the evidence that we have, we believe that we, you know, by the time we combine that together, you know, the world is going to be a beautiful place. Okay, and then you're actually taken from Reverend Thomas Berry, 1759. Okay, now let us now look at how Bayesian network look like, because I'm actually proposing to use Bayesian network, okay, to actually capture the interdependence among the variables that we're actually going to use in predicting whether a convicted criminal is actually going to reoffend upon release or not. And right now, what I want to do, I want to walk you through a theoretical development. Okay, now take a look at this. I got a set of independent variables. I want to find the probability of the joint, right? Of course, since I know that the variables are not likely to be independent, truly independent, of course, they're actually going to depend on parents. Okay, they're going to depend on parents. Okay, now this is a you know, what I call a graph structural approximation. Now, for instance, if I have something like this, okay, look at that. C is actually depending on A and B. A and B, what this guy is sort of telling me right now, A and B are independent, but the A and B are only independent if I've observed C. That is a condition. A and B are independent if I've observed C. That's a conditional independent. That's what we mean by conditional independent. They are not just independent, but they are only independent when C is observed. Okay, I'm going to move. Now, this is what we, you know, basically as our assumption in statistics. This is not realistic. Okay, we say, oh, they are purely independent. Then we're going to have that. This is not realistic. Okay. Okay. Now, um, you know, why am I using probabilistic graphical model? Of course, because of the success. Okay, with the probabilistic graphical model in speech recognition, medical diagnosis, computer vision, and many more. Okay. Now, uh, this is a theoretical framework. Take a look at this. You know, the node is a random variable, and the edge, they're actually the relationship they have. Okay. Now, if I want to find the joint probability of A, B, C, that's going to be probability of A, comma B, comma C, right? Okay. Then it's going to be about, you know, this C actually depend on A and depend on B, right? It means A and B are the parent of C, which is this guy here. Take a look at that. Okay. And of course, we know that C, okay, we actually know that B depend on A, right? Look at that. B depend on A, which is this guy here. Then A does not depend on anything. That's how we have probability of A. Okay. So this is a example of a Bayesian network. Okay. And this is the way the structure of the world look like. Almighty God made the structure of the world to look like this because of the fact that will enable us to appreciate the mightiness of God. Okay. Okay. Now, this is another structure. We got a lot of variables right here, and we got 7 variables. I want to find the probability of join, right? Okay, the X1 and X2 and the X3, they don't have parents. That's why you have this guy here, right? But look at the S4. S4 has 3 parents, right? And the X2, X1, X3. Look at that, and so on like that. Now the general factorization is going to look like this. So based on this, how do I make an inference to find the probability of something? Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to quickly move because of my time. Okay. I'm going to move to the area of application. Okay, because of my time. Now, take a look at this. I'm driving on the highway and I run out of fuel. Okay. Now, if I run out of fuel, of course, what is the function of my fuel gauge? Okay. Now, I want to know whether what is happening. Maybe my car just stopped suddenly. Now, what is going to, and and I realize that my this thing is working. My fuel gauge is actually working. Okay. Somebody said, can I ask question? You actually going to ask your question when I'm done. Okay. Thank you so much. I think I saw a shot. So when I'm done, you can take note of that particular page, and I'm going to answer your question. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm driving on the highway and I realize that my car just stopped suddenly and my gauge is working. What's happening? My gauge is, take a look at that. G equal to 1 means it's full, right? There's possibility that I have a battery problem or I got a fuel problem, right? Okay. Now, if I want to find, if you take a look at what I have right here, G equal to 1, it means, my fuel, you can see my gauge is working in all of this, but I have possibility. It's either my battery is not working or I mean, it's either my battery is working, is fully charged. If you take a look at this, 1 is fully charged and 1 is full tank. So if you take a look at this, 80% of the time when my gauge is working, my battery is fully charged and actually have a fuel. Okay. Now, this is another possibility. Okay, take a look at that. So these are all what we're going to put into consideration. Okay, because of my time, I'm going to move. Okay, then we calculate. Now, like I said, there's a lot of sources recorded with PGM. Okay, we have used PGM to model uncertainty in macroeconomic growth. Okay, we've used that in medical diagnosis, in prediction oil price, and so on. Okay, so take a look at this example right now. Okay, I want to tell you the success recorded in the development of COVID vaccine, and particularly in the medical diagnosis of COVID. Okay, we actually use a probabilistic graphic model. Take a look at that. It's a Bayesian network for that. Okay, there's a relationship between COVID-19, okay, and another kind of medical disease. Take a look at that. Okay, and some, there was that being kind of misclassification, misinformation, disinformation here and there, that there's a conspiracy in the world. Why it took them like 1 year to produce a COVID vaccine. That is not true. Okay, that is not true. The development of COVID vaccine actually started 10 years ago. And I'm going to tell you why, because what actually caused COVID-19 is SARS coronavirus 2. Okay, COVID-19 has relationship with other diseases, and scientists have really looked at what those diseases can cause, and they've been working on that. And that was the reason there's an information going on right now, about the source of the COVID. Everybody knows it's from China, but the information now is that, okay, is this COVID-19 artificially produced or naturally produced? Okay, now this is another area of, the success of, the probabilistic graphical model, okay, in the heart disease, okay. Now, in the supply chain, okay, there was a time in Japan, there was an earthquake in 2011. The local disruption, the global disruption could affect the supplies, okay. Okay, so, but you know what? Coming back to what I want to address, I want to use the probabilistic graphical model, okay, to correct the bias in algorithm that actually label African American as being high risk, okay. I used a data from 2016 from a county in Florida, United States, between January 1, 2013 and December 1, 2014. We got a lot of a factor like 137 factors, but you know what? The race is not, we didn't consider a race. We protect that, okay? We protect race. And in the end, now take a look at these are the variables, okay? The age, the sex, the Decile score, the different kind of charges, Now, what I'm trying to show you right now is actually the probabilistic representation of, you know, the recidiving. Okay, what is the probability that an offender is actually going to reoffend? But what we're trying to say now, all these variables actually explain that. But you know what? So they are conditionally. If you take a look at this guy, you're going to see that this felony and this guy here does not really affect this arrest. Okay, but you know what? I'm going to say they are actually independent when you observe prior. You observe that. Take a look at that. So this is the kind of the conditional independence that we're talking about that was not really captured in the other model that actually induce, bias. And the moment we can have a probabilistic representation of reality, the world is going to be a beautiful place. Take a look at that. Okay, this guy means the probability that a convicted criminal is actually going to reoffend. That's what I mean. You get it now? Okay. Now, what is the joint probability right now based on what I have? This is it. The probability of that giving C and T. I'm going to tell you now. Look at that. The probability of how? Okay. So giving C and T, this is the C and T, the prior counts and that. Because this guy depends on this and this. The two of them at the same time. I need to find out probability. Is this guy here? What about C? C actually depends on F and M. Okay. This depends on this guy and this guy. Look at that. Prior, count, depends on juvenile, felony, and juvenile, misdemeanor. Look at that. That's what we're trying to say. So we're trying to capture that each of that probability right now. But you know what? Each of the variable here, they are categorical. We make them categorical. Okay. Right now, I'm talking about discrete to discrete or Bayesian network because we also have continuous to continuous one, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. Okay. Now, in the end, we got a result. We protected race and we look at the false positive rate. Okay, using the logistic regression, the false positive rate was actually 1.58. Within naive Bayes is 1.45. But look at the Bayesian network. Oh my God, it has gone down 1.21. Okay, because we are able to capture the relationship among the variables because we don't actually assume that independent variables are truly independent. In this stochastic world, they are not going to be truly independent. This does not give us one. The perfect one is going to be one. Where can we get one? Well, of course, we're going to get one, not in this world. We can get perfect justice on earth. Okay, take a look at that. Okay, that is the Bayesian network right now. Okay, and when the race is protected, now the one for the non-African American, the probability that because they normally misclassify them to be a low risk, okay, apply that on that too and look at that. There's a reduction, a drastic reduction in the false positive rate. Okay, and also did that for that. Okay, so to end my talk today, what is the takeaway? Of course, the takeaway is just that we find we are in a world where we need to continue to learn. There's no human being who can have the perfect knowledge of the world. And you know what? We need to pay more attention to science, and we need to look for situations whereby if we really want to take a very vibrant decision that we are not going to regret in anywhere in the world, then we need to, have what I call integration of method, not just integration of data. Okay? The collaboration, that should be a kind of intellectual romance between people across field. And with that, we're going to, capture the correct reality in the world. I want to, before I go, before I stop, I want to say, Almighty God created variation. Because the first sample space was actually created by God Almighty. If you look at the account of creation, and He did that just for us to appreciate His mightiness. If you are greater than me, then I'm actually going to say God is greater than you. And the world is a probability space, and the only way out to take a correct decision in this world, we needed to go probabilistic. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to entertain questions. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. That was a wonderful one. In fact, I've been chatting you to stop, but I guess you don't want to stop. So we're going to take comment, question. So you can signify if you have any question for our speaker today. Kindly signify, or you can type a question in the chat box. Any question, comment? Oh, is it because it is PGM or what? I don't know if Professor Olubuse has something to say. Prof, any comments for our speaker today?
No, well, thank you very much, our highly erudite lecturer. I can understand that most likely our participants are not used to probabilistic graphical models. I think it's a course that is not so popular yet. In fact, in UI, we started that course under the computational statistics unit about 3-4 years ago. And I have to take it upon myself to teach the course. I think I will still appeal to Dr. Adepoju so that we can actually have special lecture as a way of motivating some of our listeners to show interest in this course. It's a course that has the potential of solving many practical problems. I have one of my students who is looking at how this probabilistic graphical model can help to solve problems in our electoral system. That's Mr. Peter O'Hare. I think he's also part of this meeting.
I think he's
So
it's also
yeah, it's here. So what I'm saying in essence is that this is just an eye opener, and I want to appeal to our erudite lecturer to still consider giving series of lectures from basic to intermediate and possibly to from what from the little presentation he made, obviously everybody will realize that there are three basic elements of a graphical model. First is for you to be able to represent the problem. That is representation, problem representation. And of course, the second one is for you to make an inference, which could be exact or approximate inference. And the third part is where the learning, where you train the machine learning aspect. So I think we should look forward to more to a series of lectures from Dr. Adepoju, and if there are special demands from our participants, UI Lisa will be most delightful, to take it up and build capacity in this area. Is one area that is growing fast and becoming popular, and the best thing at this stage for us is to catch up with the rest of the world. Those are just my few comments. I still hope people can say a few things before we close.
All right. Thank you very much. I think there is someone want to ask question. Dr. Peter Ogunyinka, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you, the moderator. Special appreciation to Lisa, UI, big acknowledgement to Professor Lubu Soye, and special appreciation to my brother, Dr. Kazeem. Good to have you in the house after a long time. Thank you for always coming back home. Yeah, I got to know about PGM, probabilistic graphical model, in application to social media, but that is in the case of undirected probabilistic graphical model. Yeah, I'm having a full robust knowledge on a directed probabilistic graphical model. Number one, looking at the model as the model used by the previous company, I can't make reference to some articles now, but I think I've read one or two articles that characterize black data with latent variables. One or two articles that characterize black data with latent variables. Don't you think the presence of latent variables could be a justification for the unfairness in the model used by the previous company? That is one. Two is I want to make a suggestion here that perhaps if we can also incorporate the evolutionary theory, optimization theory, evolutionary theory. I think it's more of a computer science and engineering. I think combining evolutionary theory with probabilistic graphical model, more efficient results will be obtained. Well, I've not done anything like that, but I think I've read one or two articles in that direction. Like Professor Lubu said, it's still very, very new. So we still hope for more development. Then number three, statistics is associated with probability data. The machine learning scientists will say, well, they are not concerned, either you call it probability data or not probability data. They are using big data, and big data itself is not probability data. How can we bring balance between these two? Now that statistics is fully into machine learning, how can we bring that balance into these two? And I love the aspect you talked about now that the world is talking about method integration, not data integration. because data integration has been invoked for long. The method integration, though it's not new, but it belongs to statistics and we continue to preach it. Finally, I just want to know your view about this. Does data science belong to statistics or it belongs to the computer scientist? And does machine learning belong to statistics or it belongs to computer scientists? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Pira. You know, it has been a long time, but you know what? I'm actually going to address your question one after the other. Number one, you asked about whether the presence of latent variable could actually facilitate the bias in algorithm. You know, you just hit the nail on the head. You know why you hit the nail on the head? I'm actually going to explain right now. If you look at the reason why other classifiers, as in algorithm, why they have a high positive rate, okay, high false positive rate for African American, is because of the presence of latent variable. Even though race was not part of the input, okay, race was not used, but there's a particular variable that is correlating with race. You know, when they say when there's multicollinearity in a data set, some of us is okay. You know what? If I compute my VIF, if it is greater than a threshold, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to remove a particular variable that does not solve the problem. Now, in the model that was used, in the algorithm that was used, race was protected. Race was not part of the output, part of the inputs. But there's a particular variable that was observed that is actually correlating with race. And that variable, in this case, is a prior count. Prior count. So that is number one. So, and the only way out of that is a probabilistic graphical model. Now, if I remember your second question, you talk about introducing kind of convolution, right? Let me say what we're doing generally, okay, is a family of artificial intelligence. When I talk about machine learning, you know, the neural network and so on like that, the family of artificial intelligence. And you know what? They use this in the Western world. And of course, they have robust economy and everything is actually going fine. But you know what? Because the Western world is not heaven, there's also going to be some errors. Okay. Number three, you talk about the balance. Is it the balance between the machine learning and statistical methodology? Now, let me tell you this. I am an hybrid statistician. Hybrid statistician. When I say I'm an hybrid statistician, I'm a statistician and I'm also a data scientist. That's what I mean. Because you know why? Statistical model, they are designed for small data. You may want to ask me a question that what about central limit theorem that said that when the sample size is large, the distribution of data set is actually going to approximate normal. I want to tell you, I'm talking about situation where I have billions of data set and I have high dimensional data. I mean high dimensional variables. So the statistical every 5 years. Give me 1 second. I'm going to mute. Yeah, I'll take it. I think I mute that guy. Now, the statistical analysis will struggle with big data. I think I presented that in March. Because you know why we struggle with big data? Everything has already been, discussed by founders of statistical method, situation where I actually want to look at the relationship between variables in such a way I want to predict, statistician will start with the specification of model. When you specify a model, you are using the principle of subjectivism. You could be wrong. But you know what? When statisticians specified a model, a statistician A specified a model, statistician B specified a model, they're working on the same thing, they normally take this different decision. And they're going to tell the world, look at me, I've already done my residual analysis and everything was so great. There's a limitation to every intervention. The machine learning, on the other hand, the data scientists, they outsmarted statisticians. They borrow knowledge from statistics with a computer knowledge, okay? Then they produce what I call the highly sophisticated tool that can actually, okay, handle a big evolution of data. This has already been tested in the Western world. It's really working for them. They're getting results. The machine learning approach, lead to high predictive accuracy. The statistical methodology is very good for interpretability. What we do in statistical analysis is explanation. How our model we explain the variation around the response. That is what we care about. The model explanation does not really explain model predictive ability. There should not be a fight. We're in a world where Almighty God wants us to collaborate. You can never get all your knowledge to withstand this world from a single source. It's not going to be possible. So therefore, knowledge needs to interact. And that was what led to machine learning. Machine learning can never display statistics because machine learning uses statistical principle. There's going to be statistics, there's going to be machine learning. And that is why in the United States, every department of statistics has data science program. And that is a reality. And that's why I call myself hybrid statisticians. I'm a statistician to the core. I understand theoretical statistics to the core. I know the limitations, and I know the limitation of machine learning. And every model put forward by human being has limitation. And that was why I said the other time, I see the face of God Almighty. I feel the mightiness of God when I read statistics, machine learning, even than listen to any average religious man. I don't know if I've answered your question, Dr. Peter.
Yes, you've done. You did justice to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think other people raise up their hand. They can go ahead. I think I saw 2 people that raised up their hand before I read my chart. Yeah, they can unmute themselves, like those people that raise. Okay, go ahead.
I think we have a question. We have a question in the chat. But though Prof has actually answered the person of I don't know, maybe Professor Tijani Abubakar. So he said they need an introductory webinar on understanding the picture. So that was what Prof actually talked about, and we plan to do something like that, and we are going to work on that. And he has another question: that is it possible to use PGM approach to solve social science research? I think Professor Lucy has also answered that one, that it is quite possible. If we have any other comment on this question, you can quickly respond before we wrap up today's program. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to say probabilistic graphical model is not new. It's only new in Africa. But the probabilistic graphic model has already been used successfully to address situations in the Western world for years. Probabilistic graphical model can be used across all fields, not only in classification, but for prediction. Okay, like oil price, economic variable, the way they interact, we don't expect independent. We don't expect them to be truly independent. And in the social sciences, it's very, very useful. In fact, in detection of crime by FBI, okay, where they use DNA analysis. Okay, now let me tell you one of the special attributes of probabilistic graphical model. If somebody commits a crime, okay, and you know what? There's somebody who is close to that person, okay? You know, we're going to be thinking that, okay, there's somebody that the associate of that person, they are likely going to, they're likely going to have, they're aware of the crime. If you now decide not to ask from the associate of that person, because when you ask from the associate of that person, it's going to say no, okay? And you now decide to ask from the wife, maybe the wife of the suspect that know everything about the suspect. You know why? You observe the wife. You did not observe the associate. But you know what? The wife of that person can give you an information that will not enable you to arrest the associate. Because the wife can say, oh, my wife always does things alone. You know, it doesn't, you understand what I mean? That is how probabilistic graphical model work. Situation where we're going to say, okay, these two variables, they are independent, provided I have observed a particular variable. That is what the network is talking about. I'm going to say that again, because in statistical analysis, we're actually going to say independent variables, they are truly independent, right? You know the meaning of truly independent? I don't need to observe any other thing. It's not a conditional one. The independent is not a conditional one. But this time around, we are incorporating the real structure of the world, okay? The interdependency, okay? That is what the network is actually capturing. And the idea behind the classifiers in machine learning, the random forest, the decision trees, and the like, they borrow, the data scientists borrow a lot of knowledge from statistics. There's something that we call Bayesian model averaging. Oh my God. Bayesian model averaging is part of the knowledge that was borrowed to create a random forest. If you are familiar with random forest classifier in machine learning, where we have a lot of trees. You know, we have trees in the forest, right? A single tree, we produce a model, and at the end of the day, there's going to be an election within the black box to, to vote for the best model. That is using the knowledge of Bayesian model averaging, trying to say that, it is not the data set that varies anymore. Model also varies. That's what we're saying. So concerning giving a lecture on probabilistic graphical model, the theoretical one, oh my God, I'm ready at any time, any day, because, the role statisticians can play is to continue to work on the advancements of our models. It doesn't really matter if government is listening or if anyone is listening, because that has come up, or somebody, my friend, an American, asked me one day, oh, how can your country have a bright people like somebody like you and your country still look like that? My response? I said, we have a lot of highly sophisticated intellectuals in Africa, in my country, but the government don't listen. And I'll give you an example. When President Trump, the former president of the United States of America, did not really follow it, when he ignored science, what happened? More than 600,000 Americans died of COVID. We don't need to force ourselves on government. We don't need to force them to listen to us. We're going to continue to do what we're doing, because when some people say, oh, let us involve in politics so that they're going to hear us. We don't need that. Because when we involve in politics, they're going to falsify our results. We don't need any kind of romance that is actually going to lead to loss of, detail or something. And but what we need to continue to do, we're going to continue to do our work. Those who want to listen, they will listen. Those who do not want to listen, they're actually going to see the repercussion. The leaders, they don't listen. They have a lot of greater scientists in Africa that are doing a great job. Why is it that when they come to the Western world, they contribute immensely to the Western world, to the growth in the Western world? But why is it that when they're in Africa, it looks as if they are not contributing? They are really contributing, but the government or whatever, they don't listen. You don't care. But what I know, truth will continue to be true. You can't manipulate truth. It's not possible. So let's continue to do our work. Let's continue to advance in knowledge. But one thing that I want us to know, we know nothing. I'm going to say that again. We know nothing. It is what Almighty God revealed to us at a particular point that we know. There's still a lot that we still need to learn. And that is the reason why machine learning, whatever method, statistical approach, all of them have limitations because they are made by man, not by God. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a very wonderful one. So I'm going to call Dr. Otekunrin Oluwaseun to give the vote of thanks because we are really out of time. We've run out of time. So Dr. Otekunrin, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Folorunsho. Dr. Kazeem Adepoju, we are very grateful for your wonderful lecture.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very, very grateful indeed. We are glad to have you in the UI Lisa. And just as you have said that you'll be ready to give more of those lectures, we are also ready to tap from your wealth of knowledge. So to our participants, we say thank you very much for joining us for today's program. And we hope to be seeing you in our subsequent programs, our talks and activities. Thank you so much, everyone. We are very grateful. Dr. Folorunsho.
Thank you very much, man. That was a wonderful one. So we still going to get in touch with you. We are going to send the link of this because the program was recorded. So we are going to send the link. You can, like Prof said, you can search our website. It was typed when we started the program. So get most of our activities on the UIDSA website. So it has been typed. So this is the website www.disaiui.com. So you get our activities on this. So I've put it in the chat room. So thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dr. Kazeem. Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Dr. Kazeem, can we get the PowerPoint slide?
Yeah.
PowerPoint slide.
I'm actually, I'm going to send that to Lisa. Lisa will make that available to everyone.
All right. Good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome, my doctor. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you, everyone.
So go to the website and get a stock. We've sent the recording and you are going to get the slide also at our website. So I've typed the website again, www.disaiui.com. So most of our activities are being published on that website. Thank you for joining today's episode of 1 Hour with the Statistician.
So Dr. Sherifat, I'm ready giving 2 hours lecture on the theoretical development of probabilistic graphical model. So I think I'm going to work with Lisa and
it will be a kind of
Hello, this is Dr. Obisheson.
Oh, yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Monique, I've been driving since morning. I missed the lecture, honestly. I'm inside my car now.
Oh.
In fact,
well,
I would have loved to ask questions. So thank you very much for the lecture and for your deep interest in our department all the time. you know, several people would not even look back to interact with anybody at all. We are grateful, you know.
Thank you so much, sir.
I will look at the slide. It's a bit I miss it honestly. So I will look at the slide. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So, Dr. Sharifat, can we close the session now, right?
Yes, you can actually close the session. We'll talk and make preparation against the 2 hours something.
Okay, so
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so
bye.
Thank you so much, ma. Thank you, ma. Thank you, ma. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma. Yeah, bye for now, everyone. Yeah, bye. Yeah.